Welcome to the tutorial for creating classification trees in Circle. The purpose of the classification tree is to help you identify and classify the set of specimens that you have gathered. Today, we're going to build a classification tree for a set of trees growing on a college campus. First, let's take a look at the Circle classification tree interface. At the very top is a palette of nodes that you can drag and drop into your diagram. Immediately below the palette is your diagram. There's nothing there now because we haven't started yet. The zoom slider allows you to zoom in and out of your diagram as it gets bigger. Below the diagram is an information panel. When you click on nodes, information about them will appear here. For example, when I click on the Start node, some information about it will appear. I'll show you the observation, specimen, and container information when we get to that part. You'll notice that when we begin, the only available object in the palette is the Start node. Let's start by dragging the Start node from the palette down to the diagram area. Notice that a set of nodes have appeared in the palette. The rectangular nodes in the palette correspond to specimens that your group has gathered. I have specimen A, specimen B, specimen C, and specimen D in my palette. Clicking on each specimen node changes the data provided in the information panel. This includes the description, any pictures you've taken of the specimen, and the results of all the observations performed on the specimen. Diamonds indicate experiments or observations that have been performed. I have observations called leaf arrangement and leaf shape. Again, the information panel changes when I click on the diamonds. It shows the description and instructions for the observation and all the results, along with the number of specimens that have that result. So, for example, the leaf arrangement observation has two separate observations, opposite and alternate. There are two collected specimens with an alternate leaf arrangement and two collected specimens with an opposite leaf arrangement. In addition, when you drop the Start node onto the diagram, a line with an arrow and a gray area appeared. We'll call this gray area a container. You can drag any of the diamond observations onto the container. What does this mean exactly? Imagine that you wanted to identify a specimen. To be sure your identification was accurate, you would need to perform a series of experiments or observations on the specimen in a particular order. The classification tree will guide you through a series of questions or decisions to correctly identify the specimen. You would begin by starting at the Start node, follow the link to the first observation, perform the observation, follow the path that corresponds to the result of that observation, perform the second observation, follow the path that corresponds to the result of that observation, and so on, until you get the identity of the specimen. How do you decide which observations to place after the Start node? One approach is to pick an observation that evenly divides the set of specimens into equal-sized groups, or as close to equal-sized groups as possible. How can you figure that out? Click on each of the diamonds and look at the information window. At the bottom of the window is a list of the results for that observation and the number of specimens that have that result. As an example, I'll click on the leaf shape observation. The text here at the bottom means that there are 3 specimens with an ovate leaf shape and 1 specimen with a lanceolate leaf shape. Let's look at leaf arrangement 2. Notice that it says there are 2 different results. 2 specimens have alternate arrangement and 2 have opposite arrangement. Because this observation more equally divides our set of specimens, we'll use leaf arrangement as our first observation. Just click and drag the leaf arrangement diamond into the gray area below the Start node. Great! Now let's see what would happen if someone were to use this classification tree to identify an object. We can do this by dragging and dropping a specimen node from the palette to the diagram. Let's try specimen A. Anyone using the tree would start by going to the start node, and you can see that the specimen animates to the start node. Next, they would follow the path to the first observation and perform it. Specimen A has an alternate leaf arrangement, so it follows the path labeled alternate. That's a really basic classification tree. Now, rather than clicking and dragging each specimen individually, we can click on the Animate All Specimens button and see where all the specimens end up. As we noticed before in the information panel, there are 2 specimens with an alternate leaf arrangement and 2 with an opposite leaf arrangement. But are we done? You'll notice that one of the containers has turned pink. This means that the container is storing specimens that have different observational results. What does that mean? If you click on a container with specimens inside, the information panel will show you the observations and results for each of the specimens in that group. Let's try it out. We'll start by clicking on the panel that contains specimen A and specimen B. It shows that there are 2 specimens that contain an alternate leaf arrangement and 2 specimens that contain an ovate leaf shape. Perfect! These 2 specimens are probably the same, since they have the same observational results. What about the other group? The information panel shows that there are 2 specimens with an opposite leaf arrangement, but 1 specimen with a lanceolate leaf shape and 1 specimen with an ovate leaf shape. That probably means that these 2 specimens are different, and we'll need another observation to distinguish between the 2. Let's click on the Return All Specimens in this container to the Palette button to move the specimens in this group back to the palette. Then drag the leaf-shaped diamond into the gray area like we did before with leaf arrangement. Now, let's try to identify specimen C. A person would begin at the start node and follow the path to the first observation, as the animation is showing. Then they would perform the first observation. Specimen C has an opposite leaf arrangement, so we'll follow that path, just as the animation does. Then they would perform the second observation and discover that specimen C has an ovate leaf shape and follow that path, and since they are in a container, they must be the correct identification. If we click on the Animate All Specimens button now, we can see that there are 3 containers with specimens that need to be identified, and each of the areas do not have differing observational results. Specimen A and B both have alternate leaf arrangement and ovate leaf shape. Specimen C has an opposite leaf arrangement and an ovate leaf shape. Specimen D has an opposite leaf arrangement and a lanceolate leaf shape. You will have gathered more specimens and performed more observations than this simple tree, but this is the general idea. After you have created a tree with unique specimens at the bottom of each path, you are ready to identify the specimens. Go back to Project Home and start identifying using the field guide pages provided. Good luck!